Raphael Varane has spoken out in his latest interview and reveals everything about his time at Manchester United. Charlotte Harper of The Athletic carried out the interview, and you can find her details in the description. In the interview, all areas were covered, from his love for the club to his disagreements with Erik Ten Hag. This is an inside look at what really happened behind the scenes. In this video, we'll break down Varane's honest thoughts on United, what he really thinks about Ten Hag, how the club compares to Real Madrid, how the structure of the club is impacting the youth, and his admiration for key players like Bruno Fernandes. Let's get into it. Despite all the ups and downs, one thing was clear. Varane genuinely loves Manchester United, even coming out to say, "It was a club that always made me dream, the stadium, the fans, what it represents." When at the club, even when injured, he would give advice to young players, with words from Mainu coming to mind. Raphael Varane told me one thing, which was great advice. The best investment you make is investing in your body. Obviously, as a footballer, your body is your instrument, it's what you use, so I took that on board. Not to mention, he respected the history of the club and honoured those that made Manchester United great, while giving his condolences to the late great Kath Phipps. Forever a legend of our club, thank you for everything, rest in peace Kath. He even acted as Agent V when trying to convince the next generation to join United, despite the fact we look like an absolute dumpster fire to the rest of the footballing world. Raphael Varane was among the former United players whom Lenny Yoro consulted before making his decision to join the club. So it's safe to say that Varane is a fairly credible person who does in fact want the best for Manchester United. But despite that passion, things weren't always smooth. Now here's where things get really juicy. In the interview, Varane revealed he had some disagreements with Erik Ten Hag. Here's what he had to say. According to Varane, Ten Hag did not offer him an explanation for leaving him out other than it was for the best of the team. We had a robust discussion. We told each other some truths, but then I didn't play for almost 2 months. I said I didn't agree with certain ways of doing things regarding the relationship between him and the team. It wasn't something that I thought was good for the team because some of the players weren't at all satisfied. It was not good in terms of the relationship with the coach. Now, this isn't hard to believe. One thing that everyone questioned about Ten Hag's management style was his man management, given the very public bust-up with Cristiano, as well as the claims that he lacked charisma. And this was proven to be the case even further when only a handful of players actually posted thankful messages regarding Ten Hag when he did eventually get the sack, barring a few players like Lisandro Martinez. A lot of players didn't have that emotional connection with the manager, and in a hope to probably help the situation, it sounds like, Varane put himself in the firing line, which led to his exclusion from the side. If I'm Ten Hag and I'm hearing this, I would really look to work on that side of my management game in order to keep improving. Now, obviously, to play devil's advocate, no pun intended, you could say that Varane wasn't necessarily the most reliable player at United. I mean, he was injured all the time and on ridiculous wages, meaning Ten Hag could have been looking at it from a squad management perspective and thought, Varane's questioning me on top of all of these additional things, he needs to be dropped. But in my opinion, Varane was honestly just trying to help. Do you think Ten Hag handled Varane's situation correctly? Let me know in the comments. The build-up to United's 2-1 FA Cup victory, however, was dominated by uncertainty over Ten Hag's future. The manager admitted after the game that he didn't know whether it had been his last match in charge, but following an end-of-season review led by United's new co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos Business Empire's sporting director Sir Dave Brailsford, Ten Hag was kept on. I was surprised he stayed, says Varane. The connection with the group no longer existed. Again, another big giveaway here from Varane, a man who we know to be quite cool and collected. Put it this way, if he was surprised that Ten Hag was kept on, then what do you think the more emotional players thought when Erik stayed on as manager? No wonder at the start of the season we had one of the best XGs in the league, but missed a boatload of chances. The players' hearts simply weren't in it. With Ten Hag, and whether it was conscious or not, this is almost a confession to the players' mindsets that they down tools. Of course they're going to when the connection with the manager just no longer exists. Varane's won it all at Real Madrid, so when he compares them to United, you have to listen. Even from the inside as a player, there wasn't a clear structure on how things were going to work. There hasn't been a fixed methodology for years. At Madrid, they have a defined way of doing things at every level of the club. At Manchester United, it was not clear or defined enough to to know how to recruit, how to play, how to communicate. There weren't the same procedures, processes, structure. So essentially, while Varane was at the club, there was a scattergun approach where United just did whatever felt right in the moment. There was no system, which is kind of ironic because United haven't just lost all identity on the pitch, we've also lost all identity off the pitch. It's literally been the wild, wild west at United for too long, and it began with Ed Woodward. And people may not like how Ineos have come in and changed things, including for what seems like millions of redundancies, but one thing they are doing is putting a solid structure in place. And if they think there's a weakness to that structure, you're gone. Just ask Dan Ashworth. It's not one person's responsibility, that's the problem. We don't even know whose fault it is. It has to be in the overall structure of the organisation. There were too many people involved in the decision-making process, so we didn't know who was really making the decisions. I can't say who was responsible. I don't know. It was a bit of everyone and a bit of no one. This really reminds me of the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a city to raise a team, and the city of Manchester is no longer United. The fact that Varane is saying that the structure above the players was faceless because a bit of everyone and a bit of no one was involved is absolutely shocking. And it just goes to show that even 10 years after his departure, United still hadn't filled the vacuum that Sir Alex Ferguson left. When I say that the players are in the best conditions at Madrid, it's because we're trying to protect them from that pressure. There's enough pressure already playing on the pitch with the fans, media and social media. That's why there was a bit of a protective atmosphere around the players at Madrid. It's the club where there's undoubtedly the most pressure. But whether it's the coach or the way the club handles difficult situations, it's really a protection against the pressure. At Manchester, that wasn't the case. I mean, we talk about the Red Devils, but how Varane's describing United, it's as though the players are asked to perform in Hell's Kitchen. I wish he would touch more on the protection he's referring to, because obviously you could point towards sports psychologists in helping to reduce the pressure. The sad thing is, we could still say that this is the case today. It was only a few weeks ago that our head coach Amorim said, this is the worst Manchester United team ever. Does that protect the players against pressure, or does it just add unnecessary pressure to them? Let me know in the comments down below. At Madrid, you can see that for years there's been a framework. A player is added, some leave, but there's always a solid foundation. When you recruit young, talented players, they have to learn before they can play. It gives them time to develop. When I arrived at the age of 18, I had no responsibilities in the dressing room. I was just there to learn. At United, they can recruit a very expensive young player and immediately play him. With all the responsibilities in an extremely difficult league, he's got a huge weight on his shoulders straight away. If we're being honest with ourselves, he's 100% on the money here. Think about how much pressure was put on Garnacho, Ahmad and Mainu this season alone. Yes, they can do well, but they're young players. They need a foundation to work off of. They can't be expected to be the main men. One thing that stood out in the interview was Varane's praise for Bruno Fernandes. During those years at United, Varane shared the dressing room with his best friend in football, Bruno Fernandes, who along with David De Gea and Marcus Rashford were the players at the club who impressed him the most, with Varane saying, even in difficult moments they are capable of doing extraordinary things. It's difficult to perform well individually when the team is struggling. You have to be very, very strong. Varane, Mr. Champions League, one of the most accomplished players the game has ever seen, clearly respects Bruno Fernandes. But because some random person who has a few subscribers will shiz on him every week, I'm supposed to believe that he's not a generational talent. We're going to leave it there, folks. Varane's time at United was a mix of love, frustration, and high expectations. He gave his all, but the club's struggles, along with a lot of injuries, meant he never got to fully shine like he did at Madrid. So after hearing his side, do you think United are now going in the right direction under Ineos? Are we finally beginning to see a bit of structure in place, or is it all just an illusion? Let me know. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe for more. Big things are happening and you won't want to miss them. But for now, Godspeed.